is every bet that I placed for UFC Nashville, which is taking place tomorrow. First fight of the night is Fatima Kline taking on Melissa Martinez, and I am not gonna take the dog shot on Melissa. She is plus 800. Fatima Kline sits at minus 1400. So the best way, in my opinion, to turn Fatima Kline minus 1400 into a bettable number is to take her by any means necessary. So with that being said, we're gonna take Fatima Kline minus 7.5 spread. That basically means if Fatima Kline wins by KO, we cash. If Fatima Kline wins by sub, we cash. And if Fatima Kline just wins 30-27 on the scorecards, complete domination, we also cash. I love this as a parlay piece. So right on the card, we have Mike Davis taking on Mitch Ramirez. And Mike Davis is really a BJJ practitioner at heart. He almost got a calf slicer against Faraz Ziam in his last fight, a submission that most other foes would have submitted to. So with that being said, we're taking Mike Davis by sub. We're running it back plus 280 against Mitch Ramirez. Mitch Ramirez, granted, he's never been subbed. He's only been finished by KO. But Thiago Moises was able to get him in some pretty bad ground spots, and I think if Mike Davis shoots takedowns early and often, like he usually does, I think he's going to find the sub. He's minus 1,000. This is his best win condition. Let's do it. Next up, we got Kennedy Nzechukwu taking on Valter Walker in a heavyweight slop fest, unranked heavyweights, but I think both guys are actually going to have pretty good heavyweight careers, considering the top 15 at heavyweight is pretty mid. These guys are not like the lowest level heavyweights. They're kind of mid-tier. I think both will have a pretty good run in the UFC, but they're facing each other, so I'm going to take the underdog here. Valter Walker plus 180. If he just gets takedowns often, he will win this fight. Kennedy Nzechukwu, he does have a KO streak at heavyweight. However, when he fights people that are going to take him down, he often gets taken down. Valter Walker is going to move forward, press the action. I think he's going to get the takedowns, and if he does, he can win this fight by sub, or he can win it by decision. So I'm going to take the quote-unquote safe route and take Valter Walker moneyline. Next up, we got Lauren Murphy taking on Eduarda Moura. Lauren Murphy is 42 years old, I believe. Eduarda Moura currently sits at minus 650. So, like I did with Fatima Kline, the best way to turn a minus 650 into a bettable number is to take their alternative spread. So we're going with Eduarda Moura minus 7.5. You can get that for plus money. So basically, Eduarda Moura, KO, you win, sub, you win, and a dominant decision, you also win. I love this bet. Next up, we got Jake Matthews taking on Chidi Njokuani, and I'm taking Jake Matthews money line, another underdog that I have some money on. Granted, if you guys follow the channel, if you follow my Bet MMA, you will see I am down historically on straight picks. So fighters that I just bet straight up often don't win. The clip that I hit at is not good at all. So Valter Walker and Jake Matthews, I believe, are the only two straight fight picks I have on this entire card. So if you want to fade that, feel free to. I think Jake Matthews has some decision equity here. I think he has the grappling upside. I think he couldn't win minutes against Chidi. And Chidi, I think, is going to be finish or bust. I know he has a good clinch game, but I don't think Jake Matthews is going to get into that, like the lower level guys that Chidi has faced recently. So Jake Matthews, money line, let's do it. Next up, we got Chris Curtis taking on Max Griffin. Battle of the Unks. Both guys are at least 37 years old. Chris Curtis is making his move down to welterweight, and I think it's going to go well for him. I'm taking Chris Curtis money line as a parlay piece. He is one of my most confident picks on the card, which is hard to say considering he basically has no finishing upside. Neither does Max Griffin. The over 2.5 is steamed to like minus 400, so it's going to a decision at an awfully high clip. So we're kind of relying on Chris Curtis to outvalue Max Griffin over 3 rounds. I think he can do it. He's been facing much better competition than Max Griffin. You know, Roman Kopylov, and besides Roman Kopylov, he's been facing basically everyone in the top 15 at middleweight. So now he's moving down. He's getting Max Griffin, who's most likely one loss away from being cut, so I'm going to take Chris Curtis moneyline in a parlay. Next up, we got Junior Tafa taking on Tuco Tokos. Now, I do have Junior Tafa to win this, but he's minus 170, so I don't really like that number, and his KO is minus 115, and I don't really like that number either. I am confident that he wins this, but I also don't want to shove him in a parlay, considering he's making his light heavyweight debut. We don't even know what he's going to look like, but I do think Tuco Tokos is the lowest level light heavyweight on the roster. So with all that being said, I think Junior Tafa, if he were to win this, it will be by KO, sure, But I think there is a scenario where he doesn't get Tuco out of there early. And if he doesn't get Tuco out of there early, I think Junior Tafa by decision is a great look. He doesn't throw a lot of volume, but he throws with big power. So even if Tuco is getting the grappling upside with his minutes and winning on the ground there, if Junior just lands a big shot every round, the round will turn in his favor. And I think Junior Tafa by decision, and the line is insanely wide. That's the only reason I'm taking it. I threw like $5 on this, putting it out there. So I wouldn't say to throw the whole bankroll on this, but I think it's a pretty good long shot prop. So we got Vitor Petrino taking on Austen Lane. Now, another fight where Vitor Petrino is minus 700. He's making his heavyweight debut. I'm not really sure how it's going to go for him. So if Vitor Petrino doesn't KO Austen Lane in the first round, this prop becomes very live. I will have a disclaimer that I do have Vitor Petrino picked to win this fight, but Austen Lane by decision. He's done it before, guys. He has done it before against power punchers that have more power than Vitor Petrino. He has taken them to decision, aka Robelis de Spain. So if Austen Lane can take Robelis de Spain to decision, I don't see why he can't employ the same grappling mindset against Vitor Petrino, keep him at range, go and shoot for the spear takedowns, and win a decision. I do have Vitor picked. I'm saying I have Vitor picked, but for a bet, long shot, sprinkle $5 on Austen Lane by decision. Next up, we got Nate the Train Landwehr taking on Morgan Charriere, and Nate the Train just looks so mid in his last fight. He looked like an old man. He is aging. He's over 35 years old, I believe, at this point. He's going to be 10 or 8 years older than Morgan Charriere in this matchup. So all that being said, all of the outside factors, we're going with Morgan Charriere as a parlay piece. We're throwing his money line into the parlay. I think he has KO upside. I don't think there's a world where Nate Landwehr can finish this guy. I think he can potentially win a decision since Morgan Charriere is 5-10 to the decision. But outside of that, I think Morgan Charriere can win this by any means necessary. So with all that being said, we're throwing him in a parlay. I do have two fights that I just could not make a betting read on. These are the fights: Steve Garcia and Calvin Kattar. Now, I do have Steve Garcia picked to win by KO, but I just don't like the betting line. If I were to bet that, I probably would be betting Calvin Kattar by decision plus 500, but I wasn't confident enough to give you guys that, so I didn't put it in the video. And then Stephen Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim. I have Bonfim to win by sub, but that's like plus 130, and the number isn't good enough for me to give it out. And if I were to bet it, I would probably bet Stephen Thompson by decision, which is currently plus 600. So maybe if you want to be a gangster and just say, I don't really care, I want to have action on every fight, why not just do Kattar by decision and Thompson by decision? That would be my recommendation. But I do have Garcia by KO and Bonfim by sub picked, so I'm kind of back and forth on these, so I just didn't bet it at all. Finally, that brings us to the main event, Derek Lewis taking on Taliesin Teixeira, and it's hard to recommend Taliesin as a parlay piece, considering this is his second UFC fight ever, and he's in a heavyweight main event against the best guy he's ever fought. But Derek Lewis is also 40 years old, 15 years older than Taliesin, so it's hard to say bet Derek Lewis as the pick. So with all that being said, I think there is one confident thing I can say about this fight, and it's that it's going to end by a KO. Minus 430, that's my parlay piece for this fight. I parlayed it with Chris Curtis moneyline and Morgan Charriere moneyline. I parlayed with Fatima Kline spread. So just a full disclaimer, these are all my bets. And then the Finz Hammer Lock, it's my weekly underdog pick. I haven't really found a way to put this into any of my videos, but here it is. Finz Hammer Lock, it's my most confident underdog of the card. We're taking Valter Walker this week at plus 180. You guys know I already have a bet on him, and now I have promoted him to Finz Hammer Lock, which is not the greatest considering the Finz Hammer Lock only has 5 wins on the year and is on a 7-week losing streak. So Valter Walker, I'm sorry if I mushed your career, but I'm pretty confident that this guy wins, so let's lock it up.